37. 37 now. When you're ready, Alhamdulillah. نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن سار سبيله إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So inshallah we'll be continuing what we started yesterday regarding discussing the book written by Sheikh Abdullah Al-Fawzan that is titled Ahadith Dhul-Hijjah wa Tashriq Ahkam wa Adab. So this book, as the title is in English, as I mentioned, Ahadith about Dhul-Hijjah and the days of Tashriq, rulings and manners by Sheikh Abdullah Fawzan. So we have started yesterday regarding discussing this book, and we have reached up to page 37, where we'll continue concerning of the points that Hafdullah discusses concerning these days of Dhul-Hijjah, which is primarily concerning the days of the first 10 days, and also in addition to this, the days of Tashriq, which follows after Al-Eid. So inshallah we'll continue with some brief notes regarding what have been mentioned regarding the Ahadith and the discussion that the author covers. Tafaddal.
Blemishes of sacrificial animal that prevent it from sufficing. Al-Bara ibn Azib radiallahu anhu narrated, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood among us and said, there are four that are not allowed as sacrifices. In another report, that will not suffice, that which is damaged in one eye and its damage is obvious, that which is sick and its sickness is obvious, that which is lame and its limp is obvious, and that which is emaciated such that there is no arrow in its bones. Reported by the authors of the Sunan, and Ahmed at-Tirmidhi said, the hadith is Hasan Sahih.
So after Hafidullah, he continued discussing concerning those matters, some of the matters that relates to Dhul-Hijjah, and of those concerning a sacrifice, concerning offering the sacrifice, which is Adha, which we had covered yesterday. So he continued that he mentioned regarding that as for concern the sacrifice, that there are certain guidelines. So we had certain guidelines regarding what type of animals that one is allowed to sacrifice, by way of one, the type of animals that are allowed to be sacrificed, also the sifat, also the description of those animals that are allowed regarding certain animals, if they have certain type of defects, then they are not allowed to be sacrificed. So this hadith also to discuss some of these matters. So again, to clarify regarding the type of animal that is allowed for one to sacrifice. Then regarding certain animals that are not, that you mentioned regarding, as at the bottom of the page we mentioned first. So you mentioned regarding this matter, this hadith and someone is to clarify what are some of the animals that is permissible, that is not permissible for one to sacrifice because of the defects that those animals may have. Then you start to mention some of those things that will disqualify those animals from being sacrificed. So we mentioned those points in brief regard as like bullet points. We mentioned first. So on the same page, you mentioned the first, that which is damaged. Aywa?
That which is damaged in one eye and its damage is obvious.
So that's concerning of those things, those animals, if they're damaged regarding concerning their sight and their eyes, then that will disqualify that animal from being one which is suitable for sacrifice. Second,
that which is sick and its sickness is obvious.
So again, concerning on these things that they meant, as it says that it is obvious. So those things that they are obvious regarding that he's ill or a certain type of illness. So this will kind of somewhat disqualify that animal from being of those that are suitable to be sacrificed. Third,
that which is lame and its limb is obvious.
Okay, so again, regarding an animal that may have some type of limb, where also it is very obvious regarding this limb. Then he mentioned a fourth,
and that which is emaciated, such that there is no marrow in its bones.
So that's concerning again emaciated. What's that word meaning?
Like kind of skinny.
Very concerned, very being so not underfed. So the animal is underfed or very skinny. Then also that may disqualify them from being of those that are suitable for sacrifice. So these are the general guidelines regarding concerning. So it shows regarding that these animals, they should be of a certain type for them to be of those that are to be sacrificed, where that these type of defects that may be found is not very obvious. So that concerning limping, that they're underfed, they're skinny, very skinny type of thing. Also, as and he mentioned other ones where these animals, the main intent that the animals are there to be are sacrificed, but also to be given away in charity. So you want to give animals that are suitable, and animals where and the animals somewhat meaty and the likes. So these are the description of those animals that one should avoid as a part of the sacrifice. So I mentioned concerning that concerning those animals that are to be sacrificed. Then he mentioned what follows, and we start on page 40. So what is a summary of the book? So we're just doing a main summary of the book. We're not going through every point or everything that is mentioned in detail, seeing that we have already started the month of Dhul-Hijjah. So that's going to sum up as a quick reminder to ourselves regarding what are those things that we should be mindful of regarding this month of Dhul-Hijjah. And because it's a matter which is a regular occurrence, that Dhul-Hijjah, it occurs on a yearly basis. So it is something that we should ordinarily be aware of and take in and try to implement what we can regarding what is being said. Anyone?
Some issues connected to the sacrifice.
So again, continue regarding matter that relates to the sacrifice. We consider adab, or I mentioned concerning qurbani or dabah, that the animal that is sacrificed, which concern we mentioned either al-hadi or al-udhiyah. So regarding concerning Dhul-Hijjah, those animals that are sacrificed, they're either classed as udhiyah, that are for those people who are not a part of Hajj, and also al-hadi for those who are involved in Hajj. Anyone?
Anas radiallahu anhu narrated, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sacrificed 2 white or mostly white-horned rams. He slaughtered them with his own hand. He mentioned Allah's name and said, Allahu Akbar, and put his foot on their sides. Reported by Al-Bukhari and Muslim.
So again, the author, Hafidullah, discussed concerning of those things that relates to the sacrificial animals, regarding of those things that one should also be mindful of, and this is concerning how to go about slaughtering of these animals. So he mentioned the Prophet Islam that mentioned Nabi Islam bikabshini amlahini aqranini. So he mentioned regarding the Prophet Islam himself that he sacrificed 2 animals. So I mentioned previously that regarding a person who wishes to do al-udhiyah, that if the person can afford 1 animal, then that's satisfactory, or the person can do more than 1 animal. So 1 individual, that it is allowed, it is permissible for a single person to offer more than 1 animal. So it's not just restricted to 1 animal. As the Prophet Islam, that he slaughtered 2 animals. So he showed the permissibility for a person to sacrifice for al-udhiyah more than 1 animal. But that this hadith is this proof. Then I mentioned regarding concerning that certain thing that he summarized, this hadith evidence of several issues related to sacrificing. So of those things he mentioned 1, sacrificing is legislated.
Sacrificing is legislated for the living because the Prophet ﷺ and his companions used to sacrifice for themselves and their families. As for specifying that for the dead and not the living, as some people do, then there is no foundation for that, unless it is a bequest, in which case it should be carried out.
So the first of those things regarding concern regarding this the matter related to the the sacrifice, that the person ordinarily it is done for those who are alive. So it is ordinarily done by the person who is alive, and the person, the head of the family, may sacrifice the animal on behalf of themselves and their family members. So for example, the father, that he will be sacrificing the animals, and it will be for himself and also by extension his family member, include his wife and children. So as we mentioned, even though the rules that we mentioned, that the rules of the ahkam of the rules and restriction only applies to the father, not to the others, as they are by way of extension, but he's the one who is the one carrying out the sacrifice. So the first of the thing that it is done mainly for those who are alive, individuals who are alive, the person or their family members. Then also he mentioned regarding, as for doing it on behalf, are doing it for those who have passed away. Then said that is not the asl. So the asl, the original, the origins is not for it to be done for those who have passed on, unless it was bequest. It was requested from before their deaths. So the person might have parents or loved ones or friends that have passed on. It's not necessary for them to sacrifice for them, especially if they didn't request of this. So the person do it first for himself. So that's the sunnah, if for the person to do so for himself, and also those who are alive from his family members. But we find that of people doing it on behalf of those who are passed on. That you find that people go put more effort into this and neglect those who are alive. So the Tashriq can somewhat try to mention that the foundation that the person stick to those who are alive, not too much emphasis is placed regarding those who are deceased. Then I mentioned second,
the male animal is better than the female animal in sacrificing because its meat is better. It is nevertheless permissible to sacrifice the female according to consensus.
Yes, that's not sure both genders are allowed, male and female are allowed. So that's the permissibility of this. Third,
it is preferable to sacrifice the animal that has horns, and it is better than the animal without horns, due to what the horned animal has of strength in its body and abundant meat.
It will be meat, yeah. It is a correction to the word of extra n, which is to be removed. Typo error, as they say.
It is nevertheless unanimously permissible to sacrifice the hornless animal.
Sometimes there's a ijma between the ulama. There's an ijma, a consent between the ulama that it's allowed regarding concerning that the animals, male and female, are allowed. Male, about mustahab, more preferred. Regarding concerning having horns, then it is more preferred that the animal with the horns that they are used, as the Prophet said, that the animal that he slaughtered, that they had horns. So that's somewhat, but if without horns, it is still allowed. It is still allowed. But as for what is preferred, then with horns, but and I mentioned that without horns, that's a consensus between the ulama, meaning ijma, an agreement between the ulama that it is permissible to do so. Fourth,
it is legislated to choose the sacrificial animal with the best look and colour. To pick a fat animal is good. An all-white animal, or one whose white is more than its black, is better. This is exalting the symbols of Allah, the Most High. The Most High said,
so the fourth one is that the animal that in a better quality is more preferred to be used. The animal of a better quality is more preferred to be used regarding concerning the animal regarding being sacrificed. So that animal is in good condition, then that's the main thing. Those are the main thing. Anyone? That's concerned. Then he mentioned the fifth.
It is recommended for a person to slaughter his sacrifice himself if he is proficient in slaughtering, even if the one slaughtering is a woman. This is because slaughtering is a way to get closer to Allah. Hence, he sallallahu alayhi wasallam said,
so the author that mentioned also the fifth of those matters is regarding concerning, as for slaughtering, it is preferred for a person to slaughter for himself on his slaughter with his own hands. So for the person to slaughter with his own hands, meaning the person, and if the person also is able, the person has someone he understands, knows how to slaughter, or he's supervised by one who knows the procedure of slaughtering, then this is allowed. But overall, it's preferred if the person is able to slaughter, to sacrifice with his own hands, then this is better. But if not, as we discussed as we mentioned previous, it's allowed for the person to appoint someone to do so on his behalf. But so that's concerning. So so it all depends on the person's situation and circumstance. In certain places in the West, that you have strict regulations regarding slaughtering. So it varies, and in other countries, Muslim countries, my father consider a regulation regarding that they are more considerate. So the person knows in an environment where the person is able, then he do so. If he's unable, then he can appoint others to do so on his behalf. And So in the hadith mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ, that he slaughtered with his own hands. So it shows that this is preferred if able to be done. Sixth,
whoever wants to sacrifice a number of animals, it is better to slaughter them on the day of Eid, while separating them among the days of sacrifice is permissible. In that is a benefit to the poor. Slaughtering continues until the end of the 13th day, according to the more predominant of the two statements of the people of knowledge.
Hey, so regarding concerning that the time that the person is allowed to offer the sacrifice, then start from after Salatul Eid. So the person is allowed to perform the sacrifice after he has prayed Salatul Eid. Then the person, for that person in that locality, then or for that person, then sacrifice is allowed for him. So the person go back to if he's local according to the time that he prays, or that he is locality prays Salatul Eid. So not depending on next masjid or next place. So for example, in one city that you're praying, for example, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, but another city they're praying 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Now, so you don't go with their praying, you go with your praying. The time that you pray your Salatul Eid, then for you, after then, your time starts regarding offering the Salatul Eid. And for the each, according to the time that they look, or the time that they pray Salatul Eid, the time that each person pray Salat al-Eid. Then as that's the start from Salatul Yawm al-Nahar, that will be the 10th of Dhul-Hijjah. After Salatul Eid, then slaughtering time commence, and the last day the person can do that on the 10th, that's better. But the person can, if you wish to spread them out or even delay them until the last day of Tashriq, then to the Allah, which will be the 13th of Dhul-Hijjah. So each say what is preferred but what is allowed. So the person have a grace period of up to the 13th, start with the 10th, also on the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th, around Asr time, that a person at that time that he can offer the slaughter after that time. So that's concerning the timing for slaughter, when it begins and when it comes to an end. Tafaddal.
It is legislated to mention Allah's name and magnify Him when slaughtering the sacrifice. He says, Bismillah, Wallahu Akbar.
Hey, so regarding concerning that, what is required regarding concerning what to be said upon offering a sacrifice, person, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. So the person can say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and read Surah Al-Fatiha and the likes, and that's not to be done. So the person only required to say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. Now, but extension regarding of long, lengthy dua, then those things are not required. So that's concerning, so basically the person said Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and offering of the sacrifice. Anyway, so those are the things that he mentioned regarding concerning the sacrifice, certain things relating to the animal are sacrificed. Then with that, inshallah, we move to the next point that follows.
The virtues of fasting the day of Arafah. Abu Qatada al-Ansari radiyallahu anhu narrated that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam was asked about fasting on the day of Arafah, and he said, it expiates the past year and the coming one, reported by Muslim.
Yes, I mentioned concerning this hadith that is collected by Imam Muslim regarding concerning that the excellence of fasting Yawm al-Arafah. So of those things that are permissible is for a person to fast Yawm al-Arafah, which would be the 9th of Dhul-Hijjah. So the 9th of Dhul-Hijjah, that's the day that the person is allowed to fast. That is the day is called Yawm al-Arafah, and that day that is allowed for those, especially more so those who are not participating in Hajj, for them to fast. So of those fasts that are said to be mustahab and muta'akka or sunnah mu'akkada, because there's text and there's a lot of virtue that come from fasting that day. So it is highly encouraged that those who are able to fast that day to fast, male and female alike. Male and female alike. And the virtue regarding that fast, but the Prophet had mentioned the hadith when he was asked regarding fasting Yawm Arafah, فقال يكفر السنة الماضية والباقية. So regarding concerning that or قابلة, that it expiates the sins of the past year and also of the coming year. So it shows regarding the excellence of the person trying to fast Yawm al-Arafah. So it shows regarding concerning that Yawm al-Arafah is a day to fast. in general, based upon we have explicit, clear-cut text regarding fasting Yawm Arafah. That's the issue regarding concerning that with Yawm Arafah in at times that if it coincides with certain days. So as I mentioned, so you have clear text that discusses the excellence of fasting Yawm Arafah. But then the issue arises if at times Yawm Arafah coincide with a day such as Friday or Saturday. Then what to be done? For example, this particular year, that and you have other years, previous years, we find that Arafah or Ashura or those days that they coincide with either Friday or Saturday. So what to be done in those cases? So in those cases, I will mention that for this particular year, that Yawm Arafah will coincide with Yawm al-Jum'ah. So what to be done regarding those cases? So you have Ahadith that mention not fasting Yawm al-Jum'ah. Except if the person chooses to fast Yawm al-Jum'ah, then he should fast the day before or the day after. But for us with this year regarding concerning Yawm Arafah, the next day is Yawm al-Eid. So the day after is completely out, which will be the Saturday. The following day is completely out. So we're only left with the day Yawm al-Jum'ah and the day before, which will be Thursday. So we know Thursday also has its own virtue regarding fasting. But the issue is regarding concerning that Arafah is Yawm al-Jum'ah. So the best approach is for the person to fast the day before in this scenario. And as he's unable to fast the day after. So in this scenario, the person will fast the day before, which will be Khamis, which will be Thursday, alongside with Friday. So that's concerning ideal. And a more preferred thing to be done. But also, is it allowed for a person just to fast in this scenario, the Friday by itself? For whatever reason, the person unable to fast Thursday, along with Friday. In this case, is he allowed now to fast Yawm al-Arafah, which coincide with Friday? And the ulama regarding this matter, they mentioned regarding, for example, Ibn Qudamah rahimahullah, that mentioned, and other ulama mentioned that, regarding concern them, they all concerned that the person is disliked for a person to fast on Friday by itself. That's generally disliked. But if the Friday coincide with a fasting which is recommended, a specific fast which is recommended, Ashura, Arafah, can the person fast Friday by itself based upon he's doing it because of Arafah? So the reason behind fasting Friday is because it happens to be Yawm Arafah. So is he allowed to fast that day on his own? Jumhur of the ulama says he can do so. And Ibn Qudamah rahimahullah, he mentioned this. So Ibn Qudamah that states this regarding concerning Ibn Qudamah, Sahib al-Mughni, that discuss concerning that it's allowed and disliked that for the person. But if it coincides with an established fast, then the person will be fasting on the basis, not because it's Friday, but actually because of that established fast. So for example, this Friday is Arafah, Yawm al-Arafah. So this is the established fast. So the established fast will take precedent over, and will take precedent as the reason behind why he's fasting Yawm al-Jum'ah. It's not because of Jum'ah, but because of Arafah that coincide with Jum'ah. So so he mentioned, and other ulama will mention that it's allowed for a person to fast if you wish. If it so happens that he fasts only Friday, it's still acceptable. It's still acceptable, even though he did not fast the day before. So it's the ideal scenario is for a person to fast Thursday and Friday, but if the person, by whatever reason, is only able, should not miss Friday. If the person is able to say if he fasts only Friday, then that is still accepted because it will be for the reason of it being Yawm Arafah, not because he's specifying Friday as a special day. Clear? So that's concerning, and aqwal, that's the call of the Jumhur of the ulama on that particular matter. The next issue that we won't go into it, but just a general So that's a general guide they have in place. So that's a general guide they have in place. So the established fast will be the reason why the person is fasting that day. And not per se for the day itself, for the sake of that day. But because of that, it's because of an established fast, which is Arafah. Or it could be Ashura, or whatever else. Now, so I mentioned we got another scenario, we discussed it, not in depth, but it's a matter regarding, for example, Yom As-Sabt, which will be Saturday. For example, if Arafah was Yom As-Sabt, was coincide with Saturday, are we allowed to fast it or not? So Jumhur of the ulama is of the same qaida principle that if Arafah, Ashura coincide with Saturday, then the person will still allowed to fast on Saturday based upon for an established reason. Clear? Even though some said that a discussion regarding that is not allowed to fast, but that's the next discussion regarding the hadith about not fasting on Yom As-Sabt for any voluntary fast. But so that's the next discussion, but with Jumhur, the principle regarding the person will be fasting on the basis of it's not per se Friday or Saturday, but because of that established fast, and the hadith regarding those who say it's not allowed, even the hadith itself, there's some discussion regarding the hadith. Was that that's for another occasion. That's for another occasion.
Sorry.
Aye?
Question for the one that believe he can't fast single day, for example, like a Friday or Saturday by itself. Say the person forgot. He forgot on Thursday that today is
He forgot.
Woke up on Friday and he said, Subhanallah, he has to fast, but he can't fast by himself. Is he allowed for him to fast? He believes he can't, you understand what I'm saying? He believes in the principle that he can't fast on Friday by himself or Saturday by himself. If he was to fast or something, what's the motive of the person?
If the person is of the belief that it is not allowed at all to fast on those particular days by itself, Friday or Saturday, but because of there's a reason now, which is it coincides with a valid fast, but because of the said as a principle for him, it's not allowed to fast that day by itself. Then I'm saying that if that's a principle, after he has studied the matter, then he should live by his principle. Even though I might have said others may disagree with him, you understand? But if that's a principle that he follows and believes in, and you look into the matter, then he goes and said, no, said others may disagree with him, I myself may disagree with him, but I said that if that's the principle that he follows, if that's then he live by his principle. If he's woke up that morning and in doubt, even though I have a principle, but he still doubts what to be done, then he asks someone of knowledge, whatever that person tells him, he goes with it. Now, so if he's said even though that's a principle, but because he's asking others, then he should take the view, take into account the view of the person that he's asking if he trusts him. So that's concerning that matter. While we go to the next matter that is discussed. Also, that's concerned. So said the general thing is allowed for people to fast. And the ideal situation in this scenario that we're facing, Thursday, Friday, with the person unable, at least Friday, on the premises that it is Yom Arafah, based upon the qawl of Jumhur ulama. Aywa.
Regarding the religious practices on the day of Eid, Abdullah ibn Qurt radiallahu anhu narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Verily, the greatest day with Allah, the Most High, are the day of sacrifice and then the day of Al-Qadr." Reported by Abu Dawood with a good chain of narration.
He mentioned regarding of those things regarding Ayyam, Dhul-Hijjah, is regarding concerning Adam Ayyam, is regarding that Yom al-Eid. So of those things that occur in these days of Dhul-Hijjah is al-Eid. So regarding concerning Eid is one of an important day in the life of the Muslim and in Islam, as a day concerning that, a day of ibadah and also a day of festivity for the Muslim, a day of joy and celebration. So Eid is of two things. It consists of the person starting day regarding ibadah, and then the person then the rest of the day and with to celebrate in a way which is mashru', in a way which is permissible in Islam. So overall, regarding concern, the emphasis is regarding the point here regarding Yawm al-Eid. So of those things that occur in the days of Dhul-Hijjah is Salatul Eid and Yawm al-Eid, which is for those who did not participate in Hajj, then away from somewhat their way of participation in this season is performing Salatul Eid. So that is something that established that Eid. This is the second Eid of the Muslim. So we have the first that is after Ramadan, and then the second is in the month of Dhul-Hijjah during the time of Al-Hajj. So while the people Hajj, for them to be Yawm al-Nahar, the day of slaughtering, it for us will be also a day of slaughtering, also a day of Salatul Eid, and also a day of celebration. They mentioned that, and also what is concerning Yawm al-Eid is Yawm al-Nahar, where the sacrifice, it begins after the Salat, and it goes also up for a few more days. So that's concerning that matter regarding, as I mentioned, Yawm al-Arafah, Yawm al-Nahar, Ayyam Tashriq, Eiduna al-Islam. So he mentioned regarding concerning the Quran and the Hadith, that the Prophet al-Islam state concerning that Yawm al-Arafah, the day of Arafah, the day of sacrifice, and the days of Tashriq are our Eid for the people of Islam. So it's in Islam that the Muslim also have time that we can celebrate. So you have time, so we have celebration that is national, universal, for a Muslim who should be Eid, both Eid al-Fitr wa Eid al-Adha. So that's one which is international for all the Muslim worldwide. And then you have kind of somewhat other celebration that of the Muslim, where they can festivity of the Muslim regarding things that are more specific regarding walima and the likes. So it shows regarding that universal for the Muslim, that and worldwide for the Muslim, that Eid al-Adha is a day of celebration for all Muslim, wherever they may be in the world. So that he mentioned of the Sunnah, he mentioned there are specific duties connected to this day, which is Yawm al-Eid. We're going to somewhat a quick bullet points regarding as a reminder regarding of those things that a person should follow through on regarding, or try to follow through on Yawm al-Eid. One,
going out to the Musalla of the Eid with the best appearance, beautifying oneself with what is permissible, emulating the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A person should not leave off cleaning and beautifying himself until after he slaughters his sacrifice, as some people do. He goes to the Musalla early so he can be close to the Imam and to attain the reward of waiting for the Salah.
So the first point they mentioned regarding of the thing that Salatul Eid is to be done in the Musalla, which is outside of the Masjid. So the ideal place for the Salatul Eid to be done away from the Masjid. So as for the Masjid, Salatul Eid, you'll find that more people are in attendance, so you need more space in attendance. Also with Salatul Eid regarding concerning the Musalla, where also that even women that are on their cycle, that they also can participate. So the Masjid is not the more ideal place for Salatul Eid, but rather to be done away from the Masjid. So whichever community are able to do so, that's better. Whichever community is able to pray away from the Masjid, then they should try to follow this as part of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Then also he mentioned regarding concern of that with Salatul Eid, that the Muslims should kind of somewhat adorn themselves that day. So concerning the way that one should adorn themselves, dress proper regarding those clothes which is befitting to the Muslim. So on Yawm al-Eid, that to dress appropriate for Yawm al-Eid. I will mention all the time regarding that the Muslim, that will reflect concerning our Islamic cultures, not others. So not to imitate the cultures of others on Yawm al-Eid, but try to imitate concerning our own cultures. So whatever the person from Africa, they wear the African attire. He's from Asia, wear the Asian attire. Now, so it's somewhat to reflect the cultures of Islam and the Muslim. So that's concerning Yawm al-Eid. So of those things that sometimes he have some, so that's concerning of then a person, then he goes to the Salat and try to be close to the Imam. So in sense of trying to be there early. Now, to be close to the Imam. Then he mentioned the second.
It is the Sunnah to recite the Takbir on his way to the Musalla until the Imam finishes the Salah. When the Imam begins the khutbah, he leaves off the takbir unless the Imam makes takbir, in which case he makes takbir with him.
Hey, so concerned that the person going as a part of the preparation all those acts, duties of Yawm al-Eid, that a person that he makes takbirat on his way to Salatul Eid. And if they get there early, then he makes these takbirat until the salat starts. Until the salats start, then he stop the takbirat. Aywa. But it's
question. So where it says make the takbir with him, is that means not in sync, right?
And I think it should mean swing. I think I'm not sure the takbir that he intends here concerns to the Imam, because his takbir of the Imam will be takbirat Allahu Akbar Salat. But I'm not sure is it before the Salat? No, because I don't know the Arabic text to see as to in which context he means with the Imam. Is it concerning the takbirat in sequence to the Imam? Then that's something which is not to be done. Or intend by this concerning takbiratul Eid, concerning the takbir that are said regarding Salatul Eid. Allahu Akbar starting the Salat. So, a point to be reviewed. Some of the Ai-Imma regarding Salatul Eid, that when they start with the takbirat or the khutbah. So that's a little bit of khutbah. So when they start the khutbah, so the Salat will have its own, would be discussed, it have its own description as how to be performed. Salatul Eid. So they have additional takbirat, which is known. But regarding concerns of the khutbah, some of the khatib, they mentioned that begins the khutbah. So they mentioned when the Imam begins the khutbah. So that puts some context. He leaves off the takbir. He leaves off the takbir unless the Imam makes takbir. So you find a small Imam in the khutbah, they'll say Allahu Akbar. They start with takbirat. So they start with their open thing, then they start to this. But of the ulama mentioned that there's no sunnah for this. Regarding the Imam in the khutbah, that he will start with Allahu Akbar, as sometimes done by some. So he'll start normally in praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he goes into khutbah, not per se making additional takbirat in the khutbah. Anyway, unless he intends something that we did not understood. Tafaddal.
It is the sunnah to change the routes. That is to go to the musalla by one route and then return home by another, due to what is narrated from Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu, who said, the Prophet ﷺ used to change the routes on the day of Eid.
It's not a thing of those adab, as referred to as adab of Eid, of those acts that are done on Eid, that a person will go with one route and then come back with a separate route, from a different route. Some of those things regarding Salatul Eid. So the person can somewhat before map out, plan his route as to going, and also plan a different route in coming back, if possible. So the person is able to do so, then it's a part of the duties or the adab of Salatul Eid. Anyway.
It is the sunnah on Eid al-Adha to not eat anything until he prays, due to what is narrated from Abdullah ibn Buraidah from his father, radiallahu anhu, who said, the Prophet ﷺ used to not go out for Eid al-Fitr until he ate, and he would not eat on the day of Adha until he prayed.
Yes, there's another thing regarding adab, regarding Salatul Eid, that for Eid al-Adha, that a person that not to eat, delay eating, especially those until after the Salah, especially those who intend to slaughter, especially those who intend to slaughter of the Sunnah. If the person eat before, that's not that's labas, but it is preferred for the person not to eat until after the slaughter. Even prefer, better yet, the person eat from his slaughter. But because of the situation that we're in this country, you may not even eat for days. So the person, but the other general thing that a person that to eat after the salah,
That's even the people that hasn't done the slaughter.
Even the people that haven't done the slaughter, for all. Anyone?
Salatul Eid is an emphasized sunnah. The Muslim must strive to perform it. It is befitting for women and children to attend. and even the babies in order to exalt the symbols of Islam. There are those from the people of knowledge who say that it is obligatory.
So the matter regarding Salatul Eid, regarding concerning Hudur or attendance of Salatul Eid, a discussion between the ulama, is it something which is why? What's the hukum regarding Salatul Eid? So what's the hukum regarding Salatul Eid? So of the ulama, that majority of the ulama is of the view that attending of Salatul Eid, that is something which is sunnah mu'akkada. It is sunnah mustahab. So it is not wajib, but it's something which is a sunnah to be done. Of the ulama will take the view that no, it is wajib. That is something that is wajib upon the Muslim to attend Jummah, meaning a must. As I mentioned here, it is a must for a Muslim to attend Salatul Eid, not Salatul Jummah, Salatul Eid. So, and then you have a view of the ulama who also concerned that it is wajib upon those people. It takes rule of Salatul Eid, Salatul Jummah. So it is wajib upon the men to attend, to ensure that they attend Jummah. As for the female, it is mustahab. The female is mustahab, but it's not wajib upon them, just as Jummah is not wajib upon them, but is wajib upon the men, as Jummah is wajib upon the men. And Allahu A'lam, that view seems to be more in line, that for the men, it is more upon them to attend, as the female, it is more encouraged, but not wajib. It's not wajib upon them, because Jummah say the same ruling of Salat al-Jummah. Aywa. But said the person has someone so should concern with Salatul Eid that everyone try to be a part of it. Right? I mentioned concerns not males, befitting for women and for children to attend, and even babies. So should it's not the Muslim as a family, as a community, that everyone try to participate in Salatul Eid. And at the least, that the females who are unable to pray would not pray, and they will spare more be behind the ones who are praying, they go forward and pray, and at least they will hear the khutbah, at least, for them to hear the message and the message of the khutbah for that day. Aywa.
After the salah and the khutbah, he slaughters his sacrifice with his own hand. If he is proficient in slaughtering, he eats from it, gives it to relatives and neighbors, and gives some of it in charity to the poor.
Aywa. So that's concerning that. So regarding concerning the matter after salah, then a person then is allowed to perform their sacrifice. So as how it is distributed, the sacrifice and the meat after being sacrificed, then a portion a person can take for himself, a portion that is given to like friends and neighbors, or family, friends, family and neighbors, and then a portion that's given to the poor and the needy. So someone said it's divided where he takes a portion for loved ones and families, and also a portion for those who are the needy. So it is done in that manner. Aywa. Next.
Number 6 or number 7?
Go to 7.
There is no problem with giving Eid greetings. It is obligatory to visit the parents and relatives, and visiting them takes precedence over visiting one's brothers for the sake of Allah.
So all those things regarding of Eid is the Eid day, of those things after Salat, that a person also, that a tradition among the Muslim, that they all visit each other. So it concerns the Ada, a printer, so the custom of the Muslim of visiting each other. So the person visits the family members, and you might find that it becomes more visible if a person lives in a Muslim country, that Eid day finds that they'll go to family from one house to another, and visit the family and neighbors type of thing, and bring them gifts. So it becomes so that shows up that it is something which is permissible to be done. It is permissible to be done regarding visiting of others and Yom Eid. So in other cases, a person can visit family members or Muslim family members. Then also concerned that friends and loved ones that visiting and them, then this is something which is allowed.
Oh, sorry, the word obligatory was used. The word wajib or obligatory, wajib is in
visiting of the family.
Yeah, so visiting the parents, the word obligatory was used.
It is obligatory to visit the parents and relatives and visit and so that to be looked into, in a sense of visiting of others concerned that not that of concern by Bab of not there's maybe a hadith on that matter regarding this that that's explicit regarding visiting of the parents and relatives, but by way of the order of the people, and also by Bab of concern of those people that you should give attention to, and Yom Eid is that present will be given to your parents as a part of the rights and duties that they have over us. So but being mentioned as wajib, then to be looked into regarding is must to visit them on Yawm al-Eid, then that also needs to be looked into further. And so with that, so those things that one should be mindful of concerning Yawm al-Eid. And also, so you might find now as it will become more popular in the West or in Muslim minority countries, that you find that communities also know, because you find that communities of those who may not have much Muslim relatives. Now, to apply regarding visiting our families and parents, that you find our custom amongst the Muslim in the West, that they will have like a community gatherings. Now, so after Salatul Eid, then you have community gatherings with the community people that were local, and they'll do different type of activities and have different activities, and will take place on that day, which I've said no. In a Muslim country, they do it. Regarding concerning the even they have like we said the theme parks and fun fair. Now you do have those things in even a Muslim country. So us what we're doing is not new to what is already established in Muslim country. So but what is maybe different from what we do in the West from what in a Muslim country as a community gathering and spending the day together, part of the day together regarding doing fun activities for children and for different ages. And also maybe having a barbecue or dinner, then that may be different from Muslim country. But we said no. Basically, one said, but there's nothing haram about doing this. Now, but as the general guidelines, try to separate the genders as best as possible to separate and not free mixing to unnecessarily occur. Not free mixing unnecessary to occur. So that's concerning that matter. Then it goes to Muharram, hadith about the month of
Tashriq. Virtues of the day of Tashriq.
That's Tashriq. طيب تفضل.
The virtues of the days of Tashriq. Nubaysha al-Hudayli radiallahu anhu narrated that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the days of Tashriq are days of eating and drinking. In another narration, and remembrance of Allah, reported by Muslim.
Yes, it's concerned that of those matters regarding Ayyam Tashriq, regarding concerning of the 8 days of Tashriq regarding that, is an extension regarding Yawm al-Eid. So we're still a day of eat and drink, still a day of festivity. So concerning that, Tashriq Ayyam Akhl Shurb is a day of eat and drink. It's concerning festivity. Now, and also, those days, 3 days, the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th, they are the Ayyam Tashriq of Dhul-Hijjah. So on those days also, that slaughtering can still occur, and also it's still a day of dhikrillah, remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding takbirat, that is to be done after the salawat, and also, so that's concerning Ayyam al-Tashriq. So Ayyam al-Tashriq also that are included regarding those days of the day of Eid. A part of the days of Eid is Ayyam al-Tashriq, a day of celebration and slaughtering. And as mentioned, Yawm al-Arafah, then you have Yawm al-Nahar, which is Eid day. Wa Ayyam al-Tashriq, Eiduna al-Islam. It's the day, those days, it's the days of the Eid for the Muslim. So again, just clarifying that those days it's still allowed regarding slaughtering and also days of joy and celebration. So concerning, so I mentioned regarding the first matter, regarding concerning this hadith points out the two matters. On page 52, the first matter.
The first matter, the days of Tashriq are days of eating, drinking, displaying joy and happiness, being generous towards the women and children with what will bring them relaxation of the bodies and delight of the souls from those things which are neither warned against nor busy one from acts of obedience to Allah, the Most High. The Prophet ﷺ said, the day of Arafah, the day of sacrifice, and the days of Tashriq are our Eid, the people of Islam.
Anyway, so that's general guidelines regarding clarification regarding that is allowed regarding days of Tashriq, a continuation regarding a day of celebration for the Muslim. And what matter? Second matter?
The second matter. These days are days of remembering Allah, the Most High.
As he mentioned, this was that there is no problem with being liberal, and continue from point. First matter after the hadith.
There is no problem with being liberal with food and drink, especially the meat, because the Prophet ﷺ described these days as days of eating and drinking. That is, as long as that does not lead to extravagance and wastefulness and belittling the blessings of Allah, the Most High.
Hey, so I mentioned again concerning that those days regarding being liberal, etc. That a person is somewhat liberal, that one can spend in a way which is reasonable regarding concerning these days of celebration. Now we're not going to extravagance, overspending. Now, so the person is somewhat to spend on one's family and loved ones on the day of the Eid. It is something which is allowed, and do something that we use the word something special. We have no activities that we may do it as a family, especially for us now who live in the West. Regarding concerns for Eid, that we should make it something, because we're always surrounded by other festivals, and we see all those people celebrate their festivals. Now, so for us, somewhat to make it something that our children somewhat feel proud of their Eid. Now, as we would say in English, not make it dry. Now, especially for the children, as adults, we can somewhat have patience and those things. But more so if we have children, somewhat have activities and do things where they somewhat can appreciate our Eid. Now, and not see that where they look at other people eat and somewhat feel that they're being left out. Now, so I said now as Eid as communities, so I said as a community and also as parents, and that is upon our duty, and as the elders in the community somewhat, if for anyone, our children at least make their Eid something which is said that they appreciate. Now, that at least we can sacrifice, because you understand, but for them make it something they can appreciate. And to the extent that so it's for each person, for parents and for community members to to not neglect this duty. Aywa.
The second matter. These days are days of remembering Allah, the Most High. That is done by making takbir at the end of the prescribed prayers and at all times. The righteous situation are for the remembrance of Allah, the Most High. This includes remembering Allah at the time of eating and drinking by mentioning Allah's name at the beginning and praising Him afterwards. Even though this is general for every instance of eating and drinking, it is emphasized during these days.
So that's concerning some of the points that relates to Ayyam Tashriq, regarding days of celebration with some guidelines. So that inshallah ta'ala, it seems that they mentioned what comes next. The page mentioned Ahadith about the month of Al-Muharram, with that different topic. Regarding concerning Ayyam Dhul-Hijjah, then we have covered and completed what is mentioned here regarding these days of Dhul-Hijjah, that we try as Muslims to maximize this benefit. As it occurs once a year, again as something and somewhat to give the opportunity regarding being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and putting effort regarding doing righteous deeds. So this is that, this is that time that we somewhat try to maximize the benefit regarding getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also a way of celebrating these days in a way which is according to the rules of Islam. So that inshallah ta'ala we have now read this small thesis regarding concerning as a reminder regarding Ayyam Dhul-Hijjah, which is Ashra Dhul-Hijjah. So and also its adab and the rules, some of the rules that pertain to this. So we have completed this inshallah ta'ala. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taqabbal minna wa minkum. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this from this wa al-muallif and also the author, and that this is as mentioned as a reminder. So it's meant as a reminder. We didn't go through all the points or read the book from cover to cover. It's just a small summary of the main points of the book, and we hope that it was a benefit to ourselves as a reminder and also for others. وبالله تعالى توفيق وهذه إلى السبيل والآخر دعوانا الحمد لله.
Can I ask a question about slaughtering? Well, if you, is it allowed for maybe for you and your son or you and your wife to hold the knife at the same time and slaughter the animals? It just, you know, like when people sometimes they make cut the wedding cake and they both got the knife and they of course, you know, so you get your head around the question, if you know what I mean.
Okay. Now, so as for the question that is asked concerning, for example, that all the family members to hold the knife together and to cut the animal, that's takalluf. That's people that's going over, that's a bit being too over the top. That's being over the top. And that's going to be one of those cases where one of it, after that, we don't make qiyas regarding cutting off the cake with those people. What's the general society? The problem is not that, as we mentioned, that's not that he did it himself. Yes, and he had other family members. But said no, it's not necessary to get everyone involved regarding us, holding hands together and cutting off the slaughter, and there's no need for that. Yes, because from the principle that yes, so there's no that's a bit. Would
the only time that be permissible? So, for example, in Muslim.
Sorry.
Would the only time that be permissible? Because generally, when I see like Muslim majority countries, it's like when the father is teaching the son how to slaughter.
If the way comes, if it's done by way of I've said that at times would be done as a way of others to witness and also to learn. You understand? So maybe a father who wishes to kind of somewhat as a form of training for his son may take him along. You understand? And maybe it's something if the older man, but not per se. You do that. So get the father, the wife, and all the children, everyone. You understand? Well, that's in that manner. Right, so maybe, yes, at times that a father may want to teach his kids, and for kids, the child to have that experience. If the child can manage it, then yes, then that's not a problem. That's a different matter, and that's allowed.
The question I want to ask is like the way the Udiyah is slaughtered, for example, like they say you turn the animal towards the Qibla, for example, you might use the ears to cover the eyes, for example, and you slaughter it. Is this written in the text, or is it the qiyas of
Now the third thing I mentioned regarding concerning slaughtering, so the author becomes that the book is a muhtasar, very short.
No.
You understand? So the emphasis says so regarding concerning the detailed method of carrying out the slaughter is a different discussion. Now, so regarding concerning that says so, as for putting the ears to cover the eyes of the animals, then said no, I don't know of anything of this nature. You understand? So the general thing is that we said that rather than in slaughter the animal, the Prophet Islam put the small animals on the ground, and kind of someone held them down with his foot, and then kind of someone slaughter him. But also said that anything to be covered is the ones who shouldn't be witnessing this though, unnecessarily. Other animals, you understand, witnessing other animals being slaughtered. So they usually have take the one to be slaughtered, even have a bunch of them. They have a separate room that each will be slaughtered separate, individually, but not to be. If you can avoid it, then that's better. But as for covering the eyes with his ears, then I don't know of anything specific text regarding this.
Also facing the Qibla, for example.
The facing the Qibla said that's the most prefer to face the Qibla.
No.
You understand? Regarding the Qibla for many things, so to do so there's no harm. There's to do so, but it's not a must. But to do so there's no harm.
Yeah, and the question, one last question is. If someone slaughtered there, but you forgot to pronounce the name of Allah on the meat, for example, what's the
ruling on that?
The ruling, the best ruling on that, is it like leave it now, or
get another one.
But you can still eat it.
Hey, so regarding regarding the person wants to get those things to be said.
No.
Now, because of his intention was already there, but if you got the exact wording, then it is still accepted. Now it is still accepted. Now, so the person who intentionally, they have the person who forgot, and the person who did. Intentions are different. If the person who actually genuinely forgot, then no haraj, inshallah ta'ala. So that, any other questions? So that this is a brief, so that this book is available, I think mainly for free distribution to masajid and Islamic organization, in kind of somewhat to give some clarity regarding certain matters. So the brothers, Jazakallah khair, have done some work in translating some works and also distribute them freely. So those who wish, they can contact those who are involved, and they can arrange regarding getting copies, maybe not for this year, but for upcoming year, regarding the ahkam, as a reminder regarding the matter that relates to Dhul-Hijjah, as occurs yearly. So something that is with us on a yearly basis, and it's always good to have a refresher regarding these matters. So that inshallah ta'ala will end. وبالله تعالى التوفيق وهذه إلى سبيل. السلام عليكم.